Thanks for joining us for the second episode of the Future of Focus series from the Global Treasurer. The focus of today's discussion is how the Treasury function can support the business as a commercial partner, which actively contribute to the business growth. I'm joined today by two panelists, Eli Brown, Vice President of Global Cash Management for UPS, and Fred Schacknies, Treasurer at TechnipFMC. We'd like to get started to speak a little bit about the business and how Treasury supports the business. So why don't I start with Eli? How have you seen that Treasury can continue to be a better partner for the business as we look for the future growth?
Yeah, from my perspective, it's important that Treasury have a finger on the pulse of emerging trends in the marketplace, especially related to financial technologies, and also to understand how that relates to our consumers. So if we hear of new technologies or payment methods, we should leverage our internal partnerships to understand what does that mean for the business. And we should also leverage our external partnerships with partners such as yourself to find out how can we actually make those things materialize. So we've got a lot of examples of this in the recent past, especially in Asia, where we've seen consumer behavior drive payments into digital formats. And that's something where Treasury was really on the forefront, driving things that helped our business better align with our customers. And again, Treasury, our banks, and our customers are really the three key parties there, and us bringing that to the sales and IT organization so that we can implement.
Terrific. Thank you, Eli. And if, Fred, from your point of view in terms of the business side of how Treasury can best support the business side.
Yeah, I would echo what Eli said. It very much is about keeping your finger on the pulse and really a two-way dialogue. Our customer base is comprised of national and multinational energy companies, very large in scale, and the projects we undertake are very long dated as well. So the nature of what we do involves planning and forethought on cash and capital and credit, and really I think the engagement that we have with our business partners is very much about understanding the needs of their projects and businesses, but also in keeping them informed with respect to the costs and the capacities and all of the aspects that involve that impact kind of the financial planning for these projects, and really helping them prioritize how they spend resources.
And Fred, to further on that point, what do you see as the most pressing challenges for Treasury as we continue to go forward in this new age?
You know, I think in the current environment, really one of the pressing challenges, frankly, is just the dynamic nature of change. And it's, whether it's specific to certain companies, certain industries, or just kind of the macroeconomic environment. I mean, all of the factors mentioned really have been changing on almost a daily basis, and it becomes necessary just to keep up a pretty quick pace and cadence of discussion with business partners.
The agility is so critical now. Post-COVID environment, there are really no knowns that are consistent in our operating environment. Past things where we saw certain changes in macro factors that would kind of materialize in a certain way for cash or for other aspects of the Treasury business that we run, those relationships have broken down. And so it's important for us to really tap into the right data sources and the right internal resources and to be agile. So it's probably the most fun time that it's been to work in Treasury because every day is different and you never know what you're going to get. But it's a very challenging time as well because you can't lean on the history that you've built up over time.
I think that's a great background, and I think we can speak to the two things that can help support what we've just talked about, both in terms of technology and people. Maybe Eli, from your perspective, how do you see technology supporting the Treasury function, sort of as we go into this changing environment where technology has to be more relevant than it's ever been before?
Technology is an enabler. A lot of the processes that we do at the core are not going to change, but we're going to be able to do them more effectively with technology in terms of our internal processes. In terms of external processes, there are things that are changing. Like we mentioned before, there's payment technologies that are different today than there were even 1, 2, 3 years ago. So it's our job to understand those technologies and to really drive that change in the organization to the external parties.
We're in the business of managing money, and in reality, what we manage is data and bits and bytes of information. And it's not just a matter of enabling. I mean, it's a question of, if you don't have that data in place, you really have no ground to stand on in terms of understanding, financial positions and affecting the transactions that you need to do day to day. So, digitalization and automation are absolutely key to what we do. And I would say have gotten to the point where there's sort of necessary job skills on a resume for anybody, working in finance and certainly in treasury.
And Fred, to follow up on your point, as you look to your talent and how you're recruiting talent and supporting a culture of talent, can you speak a little bit about how that's changed for you as you're looking for supporting best in this technology-driven treasury environment?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've been in the treasury domain for certainly almost all of my career, and over that time frame, the focus has changed, and the focus on talent has changed. From when I started this, it was all about how much do you know about FX, how much do you know about cash, and certainly that's still fundamentally there. We're in a very sort of technically oriented domain, but I think in the last couple of decades, what's become clear is not only do you need to know sort of how to do treasury, you absolutely need to know how to do data, how to do information. I'm not a technologist myself, but I would say, have become adept at least understanding user requirements and understanding kind of how to bring together solutions. The other part of it, though, is not just kind of the understanding the technology, but being able to sort of step back and deconstruct what is done in treasury into sort of the business components, and having that skill set of just sort of business analyst, if you will, is I think a great counterpoint to the technology side of what we do. So if you can understand the details of the data and understand the big picture of how the different processes fit together, then you'll be much more effective in actually doing what treasury does.
Yeah, and Fred, I think we've seen the same things here at UPS over the past several years. And to your point, treasury is and probably always will be a very specialized function in terms of the types of knowledge you need. But I think it's becoming a more diverse function in terms of the skill sets that we need, right? Like you mentioned, process mapping, process engineering, process reengineering. Mm-hmm. Those are things that I probably would traditionally have put either in the PMO or in an IT group, but now I need folks that are working side by side with me to help lead those initiatives. And I need technology folks directly on my team, not just in the IT teams, to help us on our day-to-day process execution. And of course, I need people that understand FX and understand cash management processes. So occasionally you'll find a unicorn that can hit almost all of those, but you're also going to piece together folks that are strong in one area and weaker in others. And I think when you bring those folks in, you have to be intentional about the types of assignments you give them and the types of rotational opportunities so that they can grow into becoming that unicorn that at least can work with these various areas that are important for today's treasury.
Yeah, no, great point there. Yeah.
How do both of you view the culture of your organization being able to support that talent development?
Yeah, for me, and this is a big part of UPS's culture, generally speaking, is constructive dissatisfaction, which really breeds innovation. So from my perspective within Treasury, I'm all about innovation. So innovation that drives improved business processes, innovation that adds value for our business partners, innovation that improves our control environment. Everything we're doing today, I promise, can be done better. And that's through innovation. It's either innovating the way that we do the process itself or leveraging different technologies. But to me, it really, one word, it's innovation.
Yeah, Eli, if I heard correctly, constructive dissatisfaction. I just noted that down. I'm gonna use that myself if I can. I like that phrase. It is very appropriate. I would say the culture here at TechnipFMC, so I've been here less than a year, but you have seen a tremendous level of collaboration and tremendous ability of people to focus on the task at hand. for what we do, which is as a company, some very intensive engineering to overcome some very challenging situations, such as putting high-tech equipment on the bottom of the seafloor. There's a kind of a culture of engineering that pervades the whole company. And I think, what we're trying to put in place now is, I like your phrasing there, that the constructive dissatisfaction of getting to sort of understand the nature of the problem and divorcing yourself from whatever solutions might have worked or not worked in the past, and looking forward to innovation.
I'd like to speak a little bit about change and how both of you are managing change and developing change in both of your companies.
I will say, having worked through a number of different companies in a number of different cycles and implemented change in each of them in some way, from what I've seen there, and also from what I've seen in other companies, every company out there has the same fundamental set of challenges of all companies go through transformations of mergers and spinoffs. They all go through, they have challenges of multiple ERPs and business units and everything else. Fundamentally, companies that are able to get through that have demonstrated a commitment to change management, which means adding skill sets of project management and communication and just change management generally. And, I don't pretend to be an expert on the subject myself, but I would acknowledge the value that brings in any enterprise, being able to sort through all of those circumstantial complexities and kind of stick to what they want to do.
Yeah, no, spot on, Fred. And like we've talked about in a lot of this session, like the diversity of talent that you have on the team is important. And that is another skill set that not everyone is going to bring to the table. And so you have to actively select for it. Change management, process management, those things go hand in hand. And I think from my perspective, my key role in that is setting a clear vision and trying to have as much of a North Star as possible, so that as we go through the change managements, we're all pointed in the same direction, right? I think that's leadership's job in this. And then to Fred's point, you got to bring in the right people to help get you there tactically. But from a strategic perspective, it's important for us to deliver the messaging on this is where we're going and this is why we're going that way, and really bring the team with you, and then have folks on board that can execute.
Yep.
Let's turn now to how you see the future. We've spoken a lot about the need for the agility of the Treasury function, working as partner with the business, being supported by really agile people and technology. Can we hear a little bit from each of you about how you view the Treasury function, both through the end of the year, the next 6 months, and even looking forward, let's say for the longer term, 3, 5, 10 years from now?
To me, the next 6 months is continuing to execute on the things we've been doing so far this year, which a lot of that is unraveling from this COVID environment and figuring out what the new operating processes are going to be. So somewhat tactical in the real short term for us. To me, the more interesting question is the 5-year horizon. And in today's time, 5 years is so much time. Things change so quickly, right? If you go back even 5, 10 years, a lot of the technologies that seem like they've been around forever weren't invented yet. So things are changing quickly. And when I think about 5 years from now, I do think we'll be very centralized in terms of the technologies that we use, and that will hook into all of the different banking partners, or a very, very large percentage of the banking partners we use. So fewer touch points for our treasury team to manage, and then leveraging things such as APIs to connect to all of those. I think in 5 years' time, that'll be very commonplace. I would say organizationally, fewer administrative type positions that are just executing processes, a little bit toward what we've already said here.
Great. And Fred, again, I'd like to get your thoughts. We're talking about sort of in the near term, the next 6 months, sort of, where do you see the function moving? But also as we move forward on a longer term horizon, what are you seeing for the company, and where you'd like Treasury to best support that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll start with 6 months ago, the company TechnipFMC underwent a pretty significant business transformation and spinning off one of our major business units as a separately owned company now, Technip Energies. And with that, a pretty substantial change in capital structure as well. So and we spent the last several months, obviously, in the wake of that, and that kind of business transformation carries with it impacts, for what pretty much every aspect of the company does operationally. I'd like to think that 6 months from now, we will have hopefully put a lot of that to bed, and operationally, technology-wise, getting on with with what we do. Looking forward to sort of several years down the road, to echo what Eli said about kind of transforming from, an environment of managing data, which all of us do every single day right now, to kind of getting through that to where the managing of the data is sort of in the background, I'll say, or is sort of second nature, and the focus of our day-to-day jobs, at least for a majority of the population, is around sort of answering analytical questions. And I would add to that, hopefully doing so in a way where I'll just say from a personal note, you can have individuals coming into and out of a treasury team and treasury group who don't necessarily bring with them years and decades of expertise doing exactly that thing, but hopefully will have transformed our treasury team to the point where let's just say well-educated finance folks with diverse and broad backgrounds can come in and add value and move around. Because as Eli mentioned, ultimately, I think that, as a kind of building talent for the finance function overall, it really benefits when you've got well-rounded, diverse background individuals who understand as broadly as possible all the different ways that finance adds value to the company.
That's really great. It's been such an enlightening discussion with both of you today. You're coming to the Global Treasury Series with different backgrounds. Your companies are diverse. But what I've heard today is that in terms of Treasury and what you're looking for, there's actually a lot of synergy. We spoke about the importance of how Treasury can support the business as the business needs to be agile. And I think that's the theme that ran through our session. We spoke about the importance of technology. And even if we look back a couple years ago to where we are today and where we need to be in the future, the importance of technology taking the place of a lot of those manual processes. And the continued investment in that, supported by the talent. The importance of the diversity of talent, that we're looking for broad range individuals to support the Treasury function. That is a different skill set, perhaps, than we've hired for before. And as we look for the future and we look for what Treasury needs, we see a general theme of adaptability. Clearly, none of us could have planned for what we've seen before, but knowing now, we can definitely plan for a future where agility, diversity, and investment in being that company that can adapt quickly is super important. Both of you, you've been tremendous panelists today, and we're excited for the future of Treasury, building on some of the great themes that we've spoken about today. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.